You know, in China's famous Three Kingdoms era, there are few names everyone knows. But there was one strategist, a true genius whose name was whispered with just as much awe. He was destined to build an empire. But his story, well, it's a huge cautionary tale. It's about hidden talent, taking big risks, and a truly tragic fate. Today, let's get into the story of Pang Tong, the fledgling phoenix. It all really kicks off with this prophecy, this rumor that was going around the battlefields of ancient China. It talked about two minds so incredibly brilliant, so game-changing, that if you could just get one of them on your side, you could conquer the entire world. Think about that. Two living keys to an empire, the sleeping dragon and the fledgling phoenix. So the dragon, that's Zhuge Liang. He's a legend, right? The very symbol of careful, calculated genius. But the phoenix, his story is completely different. It's one of just dazzling, unconventional brilliance that burned so bright and was then snuffed out way too soon. So let's uncover the story of that other genius.
All right, first up, the other genius. Look, to really get who Pang Tong was, you have to start with this timeless lesson in management, really. And it's that incredible talent doesn't always come in a shiny package. His early days are basically a masterclass in why you should never, ever judge a book by its cover. Okay, so this right here is the heart of Pang Tong's early problem. By every account, he was not much to look at. The historical texts are pretty blunt, calling him plain, even strange-looking. And in a world where your first impression meant everything, people just dismissed him. But behind that totally unimpressive exterior was a mind that could see 10 moves ahead of anyone else.
So get this, after playing a key role in one of the biggest, most important naval battles in history, Red Cliffs, you'd think he'd get a top-tier job, right? Nope, not even close. His new boss, the warlord Liu Bei, took one look at him and basically sent him to the middle of nowhere to be a low-level county administrator. His genius was completely, totally overlooked.
So how does Pang Tong handle this slap in the face? He leans into it. Hard. For over 100 days, he does absolutely nothing. Spends his time drinking, hanging out, and just lets these case files stack up until his office is literally overflowing. To anybody looking in, the guy looked like a total washout. So eventually, word gets back to the higher-ups about this incompetent magistrate. They send an inspector to go fire him. And not just anyone. They send the famously short-tempered General Zhang Fei. So Zhang Fei storms in, demanding to know what's going on. And Pang Tong just calmly asks for all the paperwork to be brought to him. And then something amazing happens. He doesn't even get up. He just starts working through it all, judging cases, dictating verdicts, signing off on documents, all at the same time. Everyone in the room, including the furious Zhang Fei, was just floored. The sheer speed and clarity of his mind was something they'd never seen. All this work, over 3 months of it, was just melting away in front of their eyes. The entire backlog was cleared in just one single day. I mean, what a way to make a point, right? He wasn't lazy, he was just profoundly bored. That job was so far beneath his abilities that it literally wasn't worth his time until he was challenged. This one stunt, this one incredible show of brainpower finally got him the recognition he deserved. He was immediately promoted to Liu Bei's inner circle as a top strategist. So, next up, free plans to win. Now that he finally had a seat at the main table, Pang Tong's real strategic genius could come out and play. And what it showed was that he wasn't just a tactician, he was a master of risk versus reward. Even before all that county magistrate drama, he'd already shown how cunning he was at the huge Battle of Red Cliffs. He spotted a critical weakness in the enemy fleet. Cao Cao's soldiers, who were from the north, got terribly seasick on the water. So Pang Tong pretends to switch sides, goes to the enemy, and offers this brilliant solution. Hey, why don't you chain all your ships together? It'll make them way more stable. Cao Cao bought it, hook, line, and sinker, and in doing so turned his entire navy into one giant, floating, flammable death trap. But his real masterpiece of strategic thinking came when he was advising Liu Bei on how to conquer the super valuable Yi province. He didn't just give one plan, he gave 3, laid out like a modern business proposal. You had the upper strategy, a high-risk, high-reward lightning strike right on the capital. The middle strategy was more of a balanced, conventional military plan. And the lower strategy was the safe, slow, super cautious option. He wasn't just a general, he was a risk analyst, letting his leader pick a plan based on their own stomach for a fight. Part 3, Fallen Phoenix Slope. Now, Liu Bei, being a pretty cautious leader, chose that balanced middle strategy. But Pang Tong's personal style, it was always about the boldest move possible. And in the end, that love for the high-risk gamble is exactly what would seal his fate. So, during the invasion, the army split up to attack a place called Lu Castle. Liu Bei took the main road, the wider, safer road. But Pang Tong, always looking for that tactical edge, that knockout punch, chose to lead his troops down a narrow, dangerous shortcut, a path that was practically screaming, "Hey, ambush here!" His own officers could see it plain as day. They warned him. They said, "Hey, this train is bad news. We need to be really careful here." But Pang Tong, maybe a little too confident in his own brilliance, maybe a little too eager to prove that his bold way was the right way, just waved them off. He dismissed their concerns and pushed ahead. It was a fatal mistake. And of course, the enemy was waiting. The trap was sprung in a valley with a name that is just so poetic, it's heartbreaking. In Chinese, it was called Luo Feng Po, which translates literally to fallen phoenix slope. The fledgling phoenix had flown right into his own destiny. Riddled with arrows, Pang Tong died right there on that slope. He was only 36 years old. All of that strategic genius, a talent that was supposed to build an empire, was just gone, lost in a single moment of tragic, terrible irony. So what's the legacy of a genius who died that young? Well, it's found in the giant shadow of what he could have been and in the incredibly important contrast he provides to his much more famous colleague. Look, if Zhuge Liang, the dragon, was a grand master chess player, meticulous, cautious, always minimizing risk, then Pang Tong, the phoenix, was a master poker player, all about speed, surprise, and willing to go all in on a high-risk bet to win it all right now. One was a master of the long, drawn-out war. The other was a master of the knockout blow. They were supposed to be the perfect team. And that's exactly why his death was such a catastrophe for his kingdom. Historians are pretty much all in agreement. If you had Pang Tong's aggressive genius working alongside Zhuge Liang's careful planning, the entire balance of power in the Three Kingdoms could have changed. His death wasn't just the loss of a man. It was the loss of a completely different future for an entire nation. And that's what we're left with, isn't it? The ultimate question. Pang Tong's story is this incredible lesson on seeing talent where others don't, on managing that unconventional genius, and on that razor-thin line between being bold and being reckless. But more than anything, it's one of history's greatest what-ifs. If the Phoenix had lived, would history have been different? We'll just have to wonder.